Hey friends. Well, I just had a fantastic morning session with a dear friend and client, student, and as often happens, I'm coming out of it with a kind of inspiration, and it's something, it ties into what my experience over the past kind of few days has been, and post I did a couple days ago about receiving feedback, and then all the way through yesterday when I was really kind of like reflecting on this experience of observing ourselves, and in particular observing our work as artists, that feeling of like an actor watching themselves on screen, or a writer reading their own work, or a speech writer listening to themselves give a speech, or a musician listening to themselves play. Any of these ways in which we come to, we take an external perspective upon our own work, and because we're so inside our own heads, our own experience, we really kind of have we can direct a very penetrating gaze at ourselves, and obviously the goal is not to sort of cause discomfort, but I think it is in some ways to, if we can both direct that gaze and withstand the level of kind of penetrating clarity that shows up, we're building muscles on a lot of levels. We're building our own capacity for perception, and we're really letting ourselves as creators or artists take a reflection. We're taking a deep and pretty powerful reflection when we take it from ourselves in this way. So we were talking about that in the session this morning, and as I had mentioned in posts a couple days ago, I've gotten some external feedback recently that also really gave me a moment of both kind of like working with the feedback itself, the reflection itself, and then consolidating my thoughts around why did I invite this? Assuming that all these events are here to serve me, assuming that that none of this is designed to undermine me. How have I invited this? Why have I asked? What is it that I'm actually going for by inviting these experiences into my life? And I came to some conclusions about that I don't need to recap because you've seen my other posts. But my new insight, or the thing that showed up today really powerfully, was I'm somebody who knows a thing or two about procrastinating, and it's something that I feel I've gotten much better about as I've gotten older, and as I've developed in the various kind of creative domains that I've worked in. I've gotten better about not procrastinating as much, and sort of being more proactive. But it's still something that I do wrestle with, and again, depending on the domain, depending on the project, it can get more or less activated in me. And what we were talking about in my session this morning, and an insight that I hit upon, is, the question was like, well, why? Why would we do that? Why would we procrastinate? Why would we put off, assuming that we want to do the work, right? We're not talking about necessarily like something that's like a school assignment that we don't want to do. It's obvious why we procrastinate on that. We're trying to just avoid doing it. But even projects like the cabaret that I was doing for a while, or other musical writing, musical performances. There's a way in which I've identified in myself a certain type of either project or environment where my impulse is to just do something else for a while. Let's pretend that's not there. And it's like, why? This is something I love doing. It's a passion. It's a heart calling. Why all of a sudden, when there's a deadline, do I avoid it? And what showed up with a new level of clarity is there's a discomfort. And I think this is an inherent discomfort. There's a discomfort in going from an idea to a concrete thing. There's discomfort there. And part of it is in the idea realm, in the sort of like the realm of forms, the platonic realm of forms, where the speech that we're going to write, or the play we're going to write, or the piece of music we're going to play, it's like the platonic ideal of those things resides in this realm in our minds. We have to take that and squeeze it into a form, an actual concrete thing. Limitation enters the equation. Everything we could possibly imagine and feel and think and inspire and channel doesn't always make it into the concrete thing. We have to select. We have to cut away stuff. And the effect, the sort of like that blast of inspired energy and joy that provokes that sort of like signals the possibility to the artist, the muses. We recognize that that's not always what we create when we actually make a thing. I had that experience recently. I had an idea for a short screenplay, and as soon as I started writing it down, I was like, oh, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. Because in the cold light of day, an idea that entertains me in my mind becomes concrete. Now, context and the details of the content, every single thing becomes an actual thing, as opposed to a kind of amorphously defined thing that just serves it's basically serving the energy of inspiration. It's not really serving the artwork yet. It's serving it's there because it helps the energy of inspiration bloom. But putting that on paper or putting that into a recording, whole different thing. So, and what I came to, I'm doing a lot of describing of the process here, but what I came to as far as an insight on why I avoid this is that there's discomfort in that. There's a moment of discomfort, there's a process of discomfort, and then there's the reflection. There's the reflection I've been talking about for the last couple of days, and which I've received in a variety of ways, internally, externally. That becomes possible, and it becomes inevitable when we make a thing out of an idea. Now you can get reflection on it. Now you can give feedback on it. Now you can evaluate it. Now you can decide if it's good or not, if it's working or not, if it's worth continuing to refine or not. And And I think that we inherently, there's an inherent, that to do that is to live on the edge. If we're doing that, if we're leaning into that feeling, we're on the edge. That's kind of, to me, that's 90% of the journey, probably. If we can take that discomfort, because this is what was coming out of the session this morning, if we can take that experience of discomfort, which always feels like, and there are rare occasions where we create something and it's perfect the first time and it's amazing and it's like, okay, great, we're done. That happens. It's happened to me. It doesn't happen very often. So for all the other times that doesn't happen, that initial discomfort and that feeling of kind of like ickiness of like, oh, it's not what I thought it would be. We have to reckon with our own, I think what it shows up our own limitations. We, in the abstract, we don't have to, none of our limitations are revealed. But when we create something, now our limitations are revealed. And now our own patterns, our own habitual stuff, all of our karma, or whatever you want to call it, is imprinted on this thing and visible to others. Here, look what I made. My signature of my patterning is all over it, if you know how to look. And that discomfort will repel us from taking that step. All it is one step. It's one step from not concrete into the concrete, and that feeling of reckoning with it happens. But we can avoid that step for years, because that step feels like a rejection. It can feel like what I felt the other day when I got my feedback. It felt like a rejection or a judgment, a delineation of worthiness. But it's not. Actually, it's just the process of stepping beyond what we know, and when we step into that territory of revealing our own limitations in a way that we don't even really control, because it's probably somewhat subconscious or semi-conscious. So we get better and better at knowing, at being able to, reveal consciously. But there's always a bit of like, oh, whoa, I didn't even know I was revealing that, and now I have to receive that. Of course, there's going to be avoidance there. Of course, there's going to be a sense of, let me wait as long as possible before I have to have that experience. That's why I think in terms of reflecting on procrastination, that's where my tendency comes from. Because the sooner I do a project, the more quickly I get that reflection. Even if it's not the deadline or if it's not somebody else's reflection, I get the reflection from me. I will know it's imperfect. So it's kind of nice to entertain the idea of it being perfect for as long as possible. As soon as I make it, it's going to be imperfect. Why would I want that? Let me keep it perfect in my mind. So, but of course, that way lies a road full of intentions, but no action. So what I'm coming to out of all this is that discomfort, that icky, gooey discomfort feeling. If we know that is the step, it's not that is not a barrier, that is not an obstacle, that is not a thing that is in any way it has no negative, it means nothing negative about what we're creating or about what we're doing. All it is the step into limitation and the kind of like manifesting something that we were previously holding in our mind. If we know that that's what it is, then we can embrace it. We can actually say, I love you, discomfort. Give me more of that discomfort, because when I'm in that discomfort, when I have that icky, cringy feeling, that's really giving me that's actually nobody wants it. I don't want it. But there's a weird way in which that discomfort can become a sign that we're moving, a sign that we're taking, that we're actually on the path and we're putting one foot in front of the other, and we're actually really kind of taking some action in the direction of manifesting what we're, manifesting what ultimately can be really tremendously beautiful and powerful and inspiring and all the things. It can be all the incredibleness can reside in the thing. It's just, it might take more than one step. We might have to refine it. We might have to do a second draft and a third draft and a fourth draft. There may be work involved. So yeah, that's where I am today. That's what showed up, is just an appreciation for that and a kind of desire to say yes to that discomfort. So that's where I am today, folks. Thanks for watching. Love you. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.